Title: A waitress lost her job feeding 3 orphans every day. Unaware a billionaire saw it all and changed. A struggling waitress lost her job feeding 3 orphans every day. Unaware that a billionaire saw it all and changed her life. It had been 1 month since Maya started working at a small diner tucked away on a quiet street corner in New York. She wasn't the type to draw attention, modest, focused, and always polite. Though life hadn't been kind to her, she wore her resilience like a second skin, showing up on time every day and doing her job without complaint. One cold evening, as she was heading home after her shift, something made her stop in her tracks. Huddled under a flickering street lamp were 3 children, barefoot, shivering, and staring hungrily at a nearby bakery window. Their clothes were torn and their eyes hollow. Without hesitation, Maya crossed the street and asked if they were all right. The oldest, a boy no older than 12, nodded but said nothing. The smallest girl, barely 6, clutched her stomach. Maya's heart broke. She used what little she had in her purse to buy them snacks from a corner store. As they ate hungrily on the curb, Maya sat beside them and asked where their parents were. There was silence. Then the middle child, a quiet boy with wide, weary eyes, murmured, "They are gone. Car accident. No one came for us." Maya's chest tightened. She didn't know what hurt more, the words or the way they said them, like it was something they'd gotten used to. From that night on, Maya made a silent promise. Every evening after her shift, she would bring them food. She never said it out loud, she just did it. At the end of each night, after clearing tables and mopping floors, Maya would wait until the manager stepped into the back office. With swift, practiced hands, she'd pack untouched leftovers, still warm, still good, into 3 paper bags and tuck them into her worn satchel. She wasn't stealing, not in her mind. The food would have been thrown out anyway. Why waste it when there were hungry mouths just blocks away? She'd slip out into the dark, bustling streets and make her way to the apartment building the children called home. It wasn't much, just a crumbling 3rd-floor unit with flickering lights and peeling paint. But the kids always waited by the window when she arrived. When they saw her, they'd race to the door with laughter and eager hands. "Miss Maya," they'd cheer in unison. She'd ruffle their hair, hand over the meals, and sit with them for a little while. She listened to their stories, schoolyard tales, memories of their parents, silly jokes. In those moments, Maya felt something she hadn't in years: purpose. The children slowly came back to life. And so did she. Unbeknownst to her, across the street, someone was watching. From the backseat of a sleek black car, billionaire Thomas Gray sat in silence. He had seen the moment Maya stopped for the children weeks ago. At first, it was curiosity. But as the days passed, he kept returning, always parking discreetly, always watching as she delivered food and kindness without expectation. In her, he saw something rare, something real, and he couldn't look away. But secrets, no matter how noble, don't stay hidden forever. The morning sun crept lazily over the horizon, casting long shadows across the chrome surfaces inside the diner. Maya had arrived early, as usual. She tied her apron with quiet determination and gave a soft smile to the cook as she passed through the kitchen. But something in the air was different that day, thicker somehow, like a storm waiting to break. Her shift began like any other: coffee refills, scribbled orders on notepads, the clinking of cutlery, and the occasional burst of laughter from a customer at the corner booth. She worked with grace, seamlessly navigating the clamor. But she could feel eyes on her, not the usual passing glances or small-town curiosity. This was different. Focused. Sharpened. From the far end of the counter, Darlene watched. Darlene had been at the diner longer than anyone. She prided herself on knowing everything that happened within its 4 walls. Gossip was her currency, and secrets were gold. She'd seen Maya sneaking bags into her purse late at night, whispering excuses to the night staff, brushing it all off like nothing. It wasn't just one time. It had become a pattern. Suspicious and territorial, Darlene had finally had enough. That afternoon, while Maya cleaned up after the lunch rush, Darlene marched into the manager's office with her lips pressed into a thin line and fire in her eyes. "She's been stealing food," she hissed. "Every night, slips it into her bag when she thinks no one's watching. I've seen it more than once." The manager, a thin man with a thick mustache and no patience for drama, sighed. "You sure she's not feeding stray dogs?" "She's giving it to someone. Kids. Maybe. I followed her once. She disappears down 9th and 43rd. You know what kind of people live there?" He didn't say much, just nodded grimly and stood up. The next morning, a mandatory staff meeting was called before opening. The room buzzed with confusion. Maya stood beside the coffee machine, her arms folded, sensing something was wrong. The manager didn't waste time. "We need to talk about something serious," he said, glancing directly at her. "We've received a report of employee theft." Heads turned. Maya's heart dropped. He stepped closer. Maya, it's come to our attention that you've been taking food from the kitchen after hours without authorization. Is that true? Silence filled the room like smoke. All eyes bore into her. Maya's lips parted, but no words came. She looked down at her hands, stained from dishwater and long shifts. She wasn't a thief. She hadn't taken the food for herself. But how could she explain it in a way that would make them understand? Yes, she finally said, her voice small. I took leftovers. They were going to be thrown out. That's not your decision to make, the manager snapped. You can't just help yourself to property that doesn't belong to you. I wasn't, she started, but the heat of humiliation rose too fast. Her voice cracked. You're dismissed, Maya. Hand in your apron. It was over just like that. No thank you, no warning. Just a swift and cold judgment. She untied her apron, slowly folding it with trembling fingers, and laid it on the counter. No one spoke. Even Darlene didn't smirk. She walked out with her head down, her heart heavy, and her pride in pieces. That evening, the streets of New York felt colder than usual. A late drizzle soaked the pavement, turning the sidewalk slick beneath her feet. Her thin coat clung to her skin, but she didn't notice. She'd spent the last of her money on groceries. A few sandwiches, fruit, and some cookies carefully packed into a bag tucked under her arm. She didn't know what she was going to do tomorrow. She had no job, no savings, no plan. But none of that mattered right now. The children were waiting. When she knocked on their door, it swung open instantly. Miss Maya, the little girl squealed, throwing her arms around Maya's waist. Hey, sunshine, Maya whispered, kneeling to her level. I brought something for you all. The oldest boy took the bag from her and beamed. We were getting worried. Maya forced a smile. I told you I'd come, didn't I? They sat together on the floor of the apartment, dimly lit and barely furnished. The children ate eagerly, their faces full of gratitude. Maya asked about their day, and they took turns talking over one another. About school, a funny teacher, a bird they'd seen out the window. She laughed with them, truly laughed, even as a lump formed in her throat. This may be the last time, she thought. As she stood to leave, she lingered a little longer at the door. You guys take care, all right, she said gently. You'll come tomorrow, the youngest asked. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Of course. She turned and stepped out into the misty evening. Her shoes splashed against shallow puddles, each step heavier than the last. Rain gathered on her lashes as she walked down the block. She never saw the car. Parked across the street, mostly obscured by the shadows and rainfall, was a black luxury vehicle, sleek, polished, almost invisible against the wet asphalt. Inside, behind tinted glass, Thomas Gray sat silently, his eyes following her every step.